something that's actually real, or is this just off-season talk? I'm going to read the title, and then we can go into that. Will Dallas Cowboys cut 4-time Pro Bowler Amari Cooper?
I don't know. I panicked and I hit a drop.
Ad loves picking the long. Yeah, it is Vince Vaughn
Oh, come on! I've been playing it all fucking season. You don't even know that it's Anchorman.
Anchorman.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't. I think it. There's obviously a little bit of merit to it. It feels like someone's letting this news out that he's possibly going to get cut, so that when it does happen, it's not like a blindside. You wouldn't have all these articles about it if it didn't have some sort of merit.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope they're not actually going to cut him.
Why cut him and not trade him?
Well, that's the thing. Cut, trade.
Why even trade him?
I mean,
well, you could get something for him, couldn't you?
But if they're going to eat the same dead money, I mean,
well,
I guess you'd get someone in return. But why if you're gonna, I don't know, why even get rid of him? I just don't see the reason to getting rid of him. Instead of trading or cutting him? Ask the question, why even do either?
Because you're going to lose Gallup, right? Isn't he?
Maybe not. He is, but with that knee injury that he sustained against the Cardinals, maybe the Cowboys can actually afford him. It's
like a 1 year prove it deal or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's probably all he's going to get from a bunch of teams.
Yeah.
He's not going to get a long-term deal coming off a ACL or MCL, whatever it was.
Getting rid of Cooper doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. Anytime Cooper wasn't on the field and wasn't in the game, it was completely noticeable. The rest of our offense looked terrible. Even in games that he was playing and didn't get a lot of catches or a lot of yards, it was noticeable because he was still getting a lot of double coverage, and they were rolling the defense over top of him.
Yeah.
So if you take that out of the equation, well, now is CeeDee Lamb ready to take that role as a number one receiver? Well, that's another question. Is CeeDee Lamb ready to step in as a number one receiver?
I was going to say, so it's funny that article that Alex just had up on there has CeeDee Lamb being interviewed on an Amari Cooper thing. So I don't know if they're obviously not foreshadowing this fucking website. Who knows what they have? Yeah, they're probably stoking the flames. EJ Savage saying if you get rid of Cooper, you save 18 mil. I think it's 19 mil, but what you're saying is that doesn't matter if they cut him; they're not saving that on as a.
Well, they'll still eat money.
Yeah,
they'll still eat.
What are they?
They'll still eat money.
Well, we all know that Dallas is having. Yeah. We all know. Most people know right now that Dallas is facing a massive salary cap issue right now in the offseason. So it could possibly be the move that we don't want, but
we talked about this last week, though. We talked about this last week with simple restructures and then even more creative restructures. They can save up to $66 million against the cap. That's without cutting anyone that's actually on the team. That's just restructuring contracts.
I think
66 mil.
I think you also have to, like, we talked about this a few podcasts back, and so the numbers aren't going to be perfect here. But you also have to look at things when you're breaking down a team, you're putting a certain amount of money into certain positions. So wide receivers have 40 million, let's say, just throwing that. I don't know if that's fucking true or not. So how we looked at and we broke down the contracts, CD and Amari Cooper are actually, I think, a 20%. They're top 26 wide receivers. I think one of them was out of the top 25. We broke down the contracts, and they're basically a 20% savings on the average. If you took the average contract of those top 26 and times it by 2, so they're 20% cheaper than that. So
you know why though? You know why that?
Does that make sense?
Because
it does.
Well, it makes sense. The reason that is those CDs still on his.
But what I'm saying.
But still, I know what you're saying.
I
know your argument.
Right. If you didn't have CD Lamb's contract, okay, that's totally different. But because you have CD Lamb's contract, that $22 million, okay, sure, it would be great to free up 18, absolutely, but at what cost? And I look at it from the GM perspective, where it's like, we're going to spend this money anyways. Let's just keep these guys. They're both top 26 wide receivers, hard to come by. And, Gallup is another issue. I think we have that position in a couple guys potentially. I'd love to keep Gallup too, but that's how I think that they look at that. And then you move on to the next position. And I think the same thing goes with Lawrence. He has a $27 million cap.
Well, that's
I believe.
what AJ, as you said, as AJ says it, EJ says it too. It's either Lawrence or Cooper we cut. So which would you boys rather have? That's the question.
We talked about this. We talked about this last week. It depends what you're going for. If you're going all defense, which it kind of seems like we're starting to shift towards we're trying to put all of our eggs into the defense. You go with Lawrence, right? You keep Lawrence, you keep Randy Gregory, and then you build around the defense. But then if you're going to try to build around the offense, you keep Cooper. So it's kind of tough. I would hate to lose either of those guys, but if you had to lose one, it depends if you're offensive minded or defensive minded. It's honestly, it depends what their strategy is going forward.
And what order do things go in? Like, can you draft and then make cuts, right? Like you have that time.
They save money. They save money if they cut Amari Cooper by March.
June 1st.
June 1st is the big one.
Yeah.
Well, just June 1st.
Because that's when
it gets guaranteed.
Shit start happening.
Shit gets guaranteed.
Okay, so technically, it's like you would not want to make any decisions right now, anyways. You'd want to go in and draft, see what you end up with, and lo and behold, if we pulled 2 top tier linebackers that could come in and start playing game day one, or that we felt that we could, okay, maybe we do try to move Lawrence because it's a hefty contract. Only if there's a $27 million worth, or whatever the difference would be, worth of person that we think we can go get. If that person doesn't exist, then there's no point to cut him, because we need to spend the cap anyways. And Jerry doesn't give a shit about 150 to 180. Like, he'll spend 220 million, right? So it all comes down to like what is potentially there. If they see a $20 million option and we only have $7 million, okay, now we need to move Lawrence.
Yeah. So
if that doesn't exist, or we don't think that we can get it,
didn't you say?
Well, let's run that. Oh, sorry, Nate.
I was just gonna say, didn't you say last week too that if you're cutting Lawrence, you might as well cut Gregory as well?
Well, it's one of those things, like, maybe not cut Gregory. You might want to keep him. I think it's one of those things. If you plan on keeping Gregory, well, then you're going to keep Lawrence, and you're going to go all in on.
And then you're all in on defense. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're all in on defense. So then Cooper's kind of the odd man out, right?
I'm talking about the Dallas Cowboys.